Welcome to the Metal Maven Podcast, where we explore and discover the process and passions of artists in the metal music and art community. We have arrived at the 5th episode of Metal Maven Podcast, and today I'm joined by metal goddess Simone Simons of Epica. Welcome, Simone. How are you?
I'm doing great. Excited for the podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited as well. I was actually quite nervous to do this, and I was like, how am I going to begin this? What are we going to talk about? This one's a little more personal for me, I guess, because you are the reason why I am doing this in a way. Mm-hmm. You gave me that first opportunity. It was, 7 years ago? We started working with each other, which when you think about it is quite crazy. Maybe we should talk about how we first started out with this. I think I found Epica on Spotify. I think there was a Goddesses of Metal or like Women in Metal playlist. And after that, I was like, I absolutely love this band. So at some point, I think it was 2012, I reached out to you with a design for Simone Style on Twitter. I think it was on Twitter. And you responded, and it ended up being I was designing your blog. And then I ended up designing for Epica, and I don't think that has not stopped.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I remember that you sent me like 4 drafts of how you could make my blog prettier.
Yeah.
And since I had no clue of how to do it myself, I was just using templates.
Yeah.
I was very thankful for the help that you offered me. So. Yeah, I'm happy. I got you on board on the blog.
I know. Well,
because of you, the blog looks more professional. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, I remember we first met. October's kind of a fun month for us too, because I mean, when I first met you guys. That was the first show that I saw you at. I was in Worcester Palladium in Massachusetts.
Yeah, I remember. With your sister.
Yes, with my sister. Yep, that was super fun. I know it's funny because like all those important moments with you guys are just in my life has been October, and it's funny because we both have little boys born in October, and it's funny how that works out. But I was driving home and wondering what should I open this podcast with, and I felt that I should have to just go for it and be confident, and that is kind of what this whole podcast is going to be about today. So it was inspired by your Metal Mother HuffPost interview, and you were describing yourself and a moment where you say that, you were the example of a high school dropout, not studying, and then playing in a band. And then you also said, I'm very lucky the path was laid out for me, and I felt confident enough to walk on it. So I just kind of took your own advice, and I was like, let's kind of get into that with Simone and see how you went from baby Simone to who you are right now. When you were first starting out, what reassured your decision and gave you the confidence to move forward with what most would view as an unconventional life, being a musician?
Well, I got the chance or the possibility to be the Epica singer back in 2002, but I was very young, still in high school, and I thought, nah, I don't know if I should do it. I was very hesitant, and I actually helped the guys find other singers. My vocal teacher back in the day, I asked him if he knew any girls that would be into singing in a band, and I was actually like Mark's assistant trying to find a singer for the band, but it didn't work out with any of the singers. I think not many auditioned, but then we kind of knew it was meant to be that I was supposed to be the singer, but I was not confident back in the day, but I just had this gut feeling, I guess, to just do it. And there's so many things we're afraid of in life, and I was actually also afraid of it, but that made me more intrigued by being in a band. I thought as a 12-year-old, I had my first performance. I hated it. I was so nervous. I thought I don't want to have that feeling ever again in my life. But it was a gut feeling, or like I don't know, call of destiny.
Yeah.
I just decided to go with the flow, and I haven't regretted it.
in another interview, you had said you didn't tell your family you were doing this, or it was like a night of one of your concerts. I think it was like a choral group you were in, but it was also the same night as the first Epica show, and you hadn't told them yet.
That's correct. Yeah, I didn't tell my parents up until the moment where I had like a double booking, and I had to let them know. And my mom was kind of cool with it, and my dad was, of course, not that happy about it because I was still in high school back then,
Hmm.
but I quit afterwards. And then, like every other parent, you are worried about the future of your child because, like you say, it's unconventional life. But I think if you're really determined and work hard and believe in yourself, you can get really far in life. You just have to go for it.
Did your father discourage you in any way from this pursuit or warn you to have a backup plan should the endeavor fail?
Uh, no, not really, but I guess he made me realize really quickly that I was not studying, so I was in a band, and even though we were not making money, he saw it kind of as my job. Yeah, with the age of, I think I was 18 when I quit school because I was allowed to quit school, and they couldn't, my parents had nothing to say anymore, so they just had to also go with the flow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think now my parents are very proud of me to see what I've achieved in life and that you can make a living out of being in a band and then, specifically in a metal band.
It just
So,
takes a lot of hard work and persistence
yeah,
and luck. Yes.
luck, definitely. Also, luck. You have to be at the right place at the right time. You have to have the right mindset. You have to be the right person for it because it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. And it's not all glitter, glamour, and beers and stuff.
Yeah. A lot of sweat, tears, and smelly
Yeah,
trailers.
smelly bus, tour
Yes.
bus toilets as well. Yeah, can't imagine how stinky they are.
I know, right? Ooh. But you're not just a musician, though. You're also now an online influencer, a lifestyle blogger, makeup artist, and photographer. So you have a lot of things that you're currently doing. And for a moment, I did want to talk about your website because it is quite a large part of your life that came to fruition as you started touring with Epica and sharing your travels and stage looks. It currently has over 10 million views
Mm.
and has created some really amazing opportunities for you. With that amount of exposure and accolades, comes just as many unwanted opinions and judgments of you personally as well as of your work. So, in the metal world, how do you deal with criticism from people that undermine your hobbies and criticize you for being, according to them, into more superficial girly stuff?
Well, I think a lot of people forget that the reason why I started the blog was actually for the fans back in the day. Mainly the female fans because I got so many questions about my makeup and hair and the clothes that I wore. And before I had the blog, I was writing tour diaries on the Epica website, many years ago, because my blog is going to be 9 years old this year. It
Mm-hmm.
started in 2010, I believe.
Yep.
Could be wrong by 1 year. I'm bad with remembering dates, but
I, I
you
checked. I checked. It's
can
2010.
back
You're
me up
right.
on that. So, yeah, I always had a weakness for the visual side of being in Epica and was involved in photo shoots and video shoots. And I always enjoyed that as much as also the live singing and being in the studio and writing songs. So that's always been a part of it. And I've styled myself since day one, sometimes with help of other people, but a lot of it is just my own personal taste. And a couple days ago, I was digging through a box filled with Epica stuff, and I found this folder with drawings of me drawing my cat suits back in the day when I was wearing the black and white cat suit with the white corset and my boobs were hanging out. If you
Mm-hmm.
Google me on the internet, those are the first photos you see. It's they're ancient, but they're the most popular, I guess. So I designed those outfits myself. I always loved doing that, and I think that that is a big part of Epic as well. How not only how you dress the stage, but also how you dress yourself and present yourself. So working with a lot of other makeup artists, photographers, and videographers, I started to really get into it more and more. And I started the blog because I thought, this could be a cool way to bundle everything that I love and take photos of it. The first years, I did not make any money with it. I put so many hours into the blog, so much money I invested in my equipment and also buying products which I could show on the blog as well. And only since a couple of years, I've been earning a little bit of money for the hours that I put into creating blog posts, photographing, and I have my own photo studio at home now as well. And I'm working part-time as a photographer besides Epica. I think it's great that if I can make some money with it, why not? I'm doing what I love and I'm finally getting paid for it as well. The same with Epica. In the first couple of years, we were not making any money. I used my allowance money to buy a battery, 9-volt battery for my in-ear backpack. And it always, with everything you do in life, it takes hard work in the beginning and it will pay off in the end. And that's the same thing with my blog. And I will not let any other people like tear me down. As long as I still have fun at doing what I'm doing, and of course also make money, I gotta pay the bills. I'm not living with my parents anymore. Then I will continue to do it. But of course, everybody has an opinion. Everybody has the internet. But my personal opinion, if you don't like something, swipe to the left. You can. There's other stuff on the internet. If you don't like it, then you can just not look at it. It's as easy as that.
Just quiet the noise and continue doing what you do that makes you happy.
Yeah, maybe putting the phone aside for a couple hours a day would be a good advice I can give everybody.
Oh,
live life offline and not online all the time.
Definitely. So, speaking of photography, your blog has beautiful imagery, and that's not from a hired photographer, but you're the one behind the camera. And in regards to that, it's interesting that your passion work is quite the transition from being in the spotlight on stage in front of hundreds of people to being behind a camera with the focus on others or, still lifes if you're taking photos of products. Is photography a way, not to hide, but perhaps deflect attention from yourself and have a moment of anonymity and meditation for you?
I like both sides, to be in front of the camera and to be behind the camera, and I know both sides as well, so I can put myself in whatever position I am in or the other person is in. If I'm taking a photo or if the photo is being taken, I know how both sides look like. And this might sound really weird, but I talked to one of my bandmates about this as well. I'd like to be on stage. I know that people are watching me and I'm okay with that. But when I'm not on stage, I sometimes would like to be invisible, have, I guess, privacy or just be like everybody else, which is hard because a lot of people put you on this pedestal and think you're otherworldly, but I'm just another normal human being with emotions, good and bad days like anybody else. With photography, for me, I guess I started to notice I have this photographer's disease that wherever you walk around, you always see photos. You're like, oh, this could be a great photo. Oh, where's my camera? Like, I have to take a photo, or I wish I could take photos by blinking my eyes, to freeze the moment. And it's hard because I guess half of my head is filled with melodies and the others with photographs. So I also often don't just say that I'm a singer. I consider myself an artist. And I've always enjoyed arts when I was younger, not only music. Music is a big part of me. It's in my blood, I guess, but I always loved movies as well. That's where I draw a lot of inspiration from for my lyrics. But nowadays, I look at movies also from a photographer's point of view, how they compose a shot. how they light the scenery, all that stuff goes through my mind in a millisecond. So I don't watch movies anymore like anybody else, and I'm kind of a perfectionist. I can always tell the person with whom I'm watching a movie, like, oh, they made a mistake, when they have to reshot a scene, or so that the hair is wrong or the makeup is wrong, and I see those, and it's annoying. I wish I could unsee it, but I see those things really quickly. And when it comes to photography, I love portraiture because I love people. I think people are very interesting, and not just classical beauty, people of whom everybody says, oh, they're beautiful, but I think everybody has something beautiful in their face, and it's just a way. The art in photography is of how to catch it, and of portraiture photography. So
So it seems that
yeah.
photography has always been just this natural art form that you've done, but did you ever study photography formally or take, just some small classes to refine your skills?
I've taken a couple of classes, and a lot of self-taught books online, and by just trying, because the thing is, you can watch as many tutorials, read books. The best way to learn is by just taking a lot of photos. That's what a lot of photographers say. You just have to get out there and get a feeling for it. Practice makes perfect. And also, the best camera you can have is the one that you have in your hands, not necessarily the most expensive camera. Of course, the quality of the photos will improve, but not the quality of the photograph, if that makes any sense. You have to have an eye for composition, and I try to make the emotions transcend from a photograph, that you feel something when you see a photo, and
Well,
not just like, oh, that's a pretty picture, to make somebody look at it longer than a millisecond.
Well, that's what I was wondering, if there was a deeper appeal to you as an artist for specializing in portrait photography, because I know it's kind of the go-to style for like shooting makeup and promotion images. It's that very up close and intimate setting. Yeah, I was just wondering what the deeper appeal was to you.
Yeah, I guess I also started more with portraiture because of my son when he was a baby, and there you see the value of the photograph, especially with someone that's growing and changing almost every day. And those photos become a bigger treasure than any other expensive piece of equipment. I sometimes say, when if my house would burn down, the things that I'll save are my photo books and drawings that my son made for me. All the other stuff can go up in flames.
He must have so many photo books, though.
I
I'm
am behind in doing photo books. I don't have enough hours in a day to do everything that I like.
Don't feel bad. I have not made one photo book. I have so many photos and I've yet to like actually print them and put them in a book, so don't feel bad.
I need to be on tour again in order to do photo books. Then I have more free time. Too many photos.
How is Prince Vincent, by the way? Because I remember running down the halls backstage with him at Epic Metal Fest a few years ago, playing hide and seek. I remember Ollie, he was just exhausted with his amount of energy. I remember him just bouncing around everywhere. I think he was maybe 3 or 4.
I think he was 3 back then, yeah, because it was April.
Oh my goodness. They
I
have
think
so much
so.
energy. My son right now is almost 2, and I definitely understand where Ollie was at. He was just like, oh, just closing his eyes as he's bouncing around all over him.
Yeah, they're just a big ball of energy. So he's
Hmm.
doing great. He's going to enter school after summer.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's a new phase of our lives. And he got his backpack, which in Germany it's all like it's a big thing, getting that specific backpack, which is totally overpriced, but yeah.
Oh, is it like a school standard? Like everyone has to have
Yeah,
the same thing?
kind of, yeah. Yeah, here in Germany it's different than in Holland. My mom's jaw dropped on the floor when she heard how expensive it was, and I thought, yeah, okay, it's like a really ergonomically designed backpack that looks twice as big as my son. It's like all you see when these kids are walking around in my town. You see the backpacks with a little kid attached to it. It's hilarious.
It just overpowers their figure.
Yeah, especially when they're starting out. They're still tiny humans.
Well, that's exciting, but it's also sad and it's happy because he's not little anymore. but he's growing up and becoming a man. So cherishing every little moment you can in the present.
Yeah, they grow up really fast.
Well, confidence is a huge deal when being a mom, and especially a first-time mom, because every aspect of your life becomes about your child. If there's anything that makes you kind of question your worth more, it's your own judgments in regards to how good of a mother you're being with the intensity of your career. I know you guys are on break right now, but with the normal intensity of your career, how do you maintain your balance and happiness?
It's really hard because it's two different worlds that you're kind of constantly living in, and they're kind of clashing big time. Different routines. At home, I wake up early, I go to bed early. On tour, I have to be at my fittest where I normally would be in bed after a long day of being mama, housewife, cook, uh,
All the
wife,
jobs.
and all the jobs except for standing on stage. And sometimes when my son was really little, I would be changing diapers in the morning, and in the evening I would be standing on stage and being a metal singer again. I talked to Michael Ackerfeld about this, that you're a mother, or in his case, a father, until the plane lands at your destination, and then boom, you're the rock star again. That's so accurate. And then when you're home again, I sometimes I forget that I'm actually a metal singer, or that I stand on stage, especially now after enjoying a little break from the stage. It's weird that the stage is, it's like my second home, but it's also not connected to my real home. It's two different worlds. It's day and night. I like both of them. But it's hard to keep a balance. I have to admit, our touring life was it was getting out of balance with my family life. So I had to cut back on the touring a little bit in the future because it was just too much being away from my child, my husband doing doing the family work. So besides that, he's also a touring musician. So when I would be home, he would often leave. It requires a good organization, family helping out as well. As I said before, I'm a perfectionist and never think I'm doing it good enough. So being a mother or being a singer, I always think there's stuff to improve. But on the other hand, nowadays we're too harsh on ourselves, focusing too much on the things we can do or we don't have, except on focusing on what we have and what we've achieved. When you're a mom and your time is limited to do things, like before you had all day to do whatever you want or work on whatever you want, and now you have to be more efficiently with your time. But when you have to be creative within a certain time span and you have this creative block, then it sucks, because I find myself useful if I created something. It has to be something simple, even like baking a cake. If I have not done anything creative during a day, for me the day feels kind of wasted, and that is also a little bit of artist dilemma that a lot of people have. You have to take it one day at a time, and there's always going to be good and bad days. And wise words, don't be so hard on yourself.
I feel like you also have to, it can be a bit overwhelming and you just kind of dedicate yourself fully to the job, but you have to carve out some time for yourself as well, some self-care moments where you're not just mom, you're just you for at least a half hour, maybe, if you can get it.
Yeah, that's important. And another thing that's important is to not feel selfish about it as well, because if you don't do that for yourself, you cannot be a good mom, a good wife, or a good colleague. It's all connected, and it starts with yourself. So you have to take good care of yourself. That's why I try to eat healthy. I work out a lot. I keep alcohol beverages to a minimum. But I have to say, since a couple of years, I drink coffee and I drink alcohol. But I always work out uh, between 1 and 1.5 hours, a couple days a week, if my schedule allows it.
Well, I figure you have to be always in good shape, because if you're not able to, run around on stage and you're out of breath, you're really not going to have a good performance.
Yeah, but now that I'm not playing a lot, I have to work out more, because when I'm on a touring schedule, the shows are almost like working out, because it's 1.5 hours of jumping around, singing, banging your head, and you burn a lot of calories during a show, and that's something I'm missing now, and I try to compensate with working out more, of course, to stay healthy and fit, but also as a way of channeling frustration, aggression, whatever. It's great to work out because you get the natural drug, you get the endorphins, and you get like a natural high from it, and it's me time, and it's also not just body, but it's also for the soul to work out. It's really good.
Well, speaking of Epica, we've arrived at the headliner of this little podcast, and I know that's what most people have been waiting to hear about. It's been quiet lately as the band has been on hiatus, and it's a well-deserved break since you've all been going nonstop since before I even started working with you guys. And that was 7 years ago, so a bit of rest was definitely in order. But Epica is always creating something behind the scenes, and at the start of May, pre-orders were announced for Essence of Epica, your 208-page tell-all book. What can fans expect from this artifact of Epica history?
Well, we spent a lot of time doing interviews with the main, I would say, writer of the book. Everybody in the band had a couple of sessions with the writer to kind of chronologically go through Epica's discography from the Phantom Agony up until the Holographic Principle, or even Attack on Titan, and try to recollect as many memories our brains that got damaged from all the headbanging still had. We all had to dig through our own personal archives of whatever we accumulated through the years, and also our family photo books to see if we have some embarrassing childhood photos of ourselves.
I'm sure there were many.
Yeah, I guess I have a couple, but since I'm the most active on Instagram, I already put some on the internet. But I found a couple of, my mom actually helped and digged through her photos to see if she had photos of me being a teenager, because I had a lot of baby photos, but the teenage years were somehow, I was shy of the camera. And yeah, so we all had these interviews, and yeah, so many memories, everything we've done from the beginning up until now, and it's quite a lot. And we've been going so fast, touring so much, that sometimes you don't have time to reflect on everything you have already experienced in the life of a musician. And for me, this book also shows like anniversary shows or retrospect, or the 1,000th anniversary show we did recently. Those are moments where you like sit back and, stop that high-speed train and just look back on everything you've achieved already and how special it is. And creating this book kind of put a pause on us going super fast. And even though we had a break from touring, we've been writing the book, and of course we had to read it, we had to correct it and change some stuff here and there. We're still working on the artwork at the moment. Yeah, it's great. I'm looking forward to it. I know we have another book, The Road to Paradiso, but that is so old. It's vintage, and I'm looking forward for the Essence of Epica to see the light of day, and to have the fans read a little bit more of what it's like being in a band, the good and the bad. So, and the good and the bad photos as well.
And a little bit of ugly, maybe from childhood photos. We'll see.
Yeah, I think everybody was, all the guys, they were really cute when they were little, like all boys.
I can't wait to see their photos. Where did the name The Essence of Epica, the title of this book, come from?
We had a couple of names, and of course it's a little bit the essence of silence, the essence of Epica. It was kind of a no-brainer to take that name, because it sums up everything really well, because we're describing what Epica is for us as individuals, as a band, what it's like being in a band, touring. Everybody always just sees the success and the great things, but we've been through some hard times as well, and that's also details that will appear in the book. So I think it's going to be a very interesting read, and people will get to know us better, get to know the essence of Epica. So yeah, I'm very curious to find out what people think about the book. So it's a couple more months, and then
Yay!
then it's out.
That's going to be fun. I can't wait to see it. I'm excited for that. There's also the main event for 2019 for you guys, the Design Your Universe 10th Anniversary Tour starting in October. I saw on Epica's Instagram story that there's a Design Your Universe surprise in the works. Is there anything you can share with Epicans about these exclusive shows or what you guys have in store for everyone?
Good question.
I don't want to get you in trouble.
I'm also, I don't want my management to call me in a couple of days like, what did you just say there? I cannot lift the veil of the surprise. Just I can only say that it's a really nice treat that the Epica fans are in for. I'm very happy with the surprise, and I'm sure that the Epica fans will love it. I know the majority of our fans, and I know that this is something they'll absolutely love, and I'm very excited myself to play many songs from Design Universe again, because it's one of my favorite Epica albums. And for example, Tides of Time is one of my all-time favorite Epica ballads, and I have not performed it in so many years. It remains a classic. It's still a great song, and one of the songs that after all those years I still think I would not change a thing about it. And with other songs, after a couple of years, especially the ones you perform live, you think I could have changed this or that. But Tides of Time is perfect, I think.
Tides of Time, it is. It's a total Epica classic. I can't wait to hear it again. I will try. I want to really go to the Paris show if I can get there. I know it's sold out.
Do a holiday.
I know.
There might always be a guest list spot for you, I guess. We can arrange that.
We'll see. We'll see what's going on. But Paris is sold out, and Netherlands is sold out as well. So so far so good. And then you've expanded the tour dates in South America. They needed you more. They needed you to stay there longer. They're very passionate about Epica in South America.
That's correct. Yeah, and I think it proves that Design Universe is a special album that a lot of people would like to hear these songs again, and I'm very curious to see how things will go. I started listening to Design Universe again, the album. Of course, the songs that we've been playing live all those years I remembered, but then I thought, hey, there's quite a lot of other great songs on there, and how wired they were in my brain. Like I could still sing along pretty well to them. And Design Universe is just one of those albums I connect with, and think it will always be an Epica classic album. And the message that's behind, Design Universe, the fans know, and it's a little bit symbolic as well for what we've been doing. Doing what we love and designing our own universe.
Yeah. Well, as a singer too, you've evolved greatly, vocally since Design Your Universe came out. And I was just wondering, I know online there's always been metal fans who prefer your more like classical singing style in the earlier days of Epica versus the latest albums. There's always going to be a resistance to an artist's evolution. And I was wondering, are you currently satisfied with the power and flexibility and control you have of your voice, your instrument, and how will that translate into your performance of these older songs? Are you going to kind of breathe new life into them, or do you feel you're going to just sing them as you always have?
The Design Universe is the first album in the discography that I like to listen to because I'm happy with how my voice sounds. The first two albums, or three maybe even, I don't like so much, or I think I improved a lot over the years, and I sing with what the songs need, in which style. I sing in a certain style that the songs need or that it calls for, and just the classical singing everywhere becomes boring, in my opinion. And I think it is one of my strengths that I can sing in different styles nowadays. And I enjoy doing that as well, but I still love classical singing a lot. And that's how I started out with classical singing lessons. And the file that I recently found with my drawings of my early Epica outfits, the black catsuit with a corset. I also had the scores for my singing lessons when I was having classical singing lessons, and brought back great memories. So I don't know if I will bring that back to Epica like big time, or if I'll just do something in a classical solo album one day. Still so many plans and so little time. I like to be able to do a lot of different styles. And I think especially with Attack on Titan, the latest release that we've created was proof that I can sing in different styles. And I was very happy with how my vocals turned out.
Well, it seems too that transition from recording in the studio to stage, I don't know, I just feel like the transition is smoother. And I don't know if that was
Mhm.
something that you had wanted to improve on for yourself.
I guess also the technique has I've improved my technique, so that's a big part. And when it comes to the Design Universe songs, depending on which ones we will sing live or we will perform live, I will adapt my technique on the melodies, but I don't want to try to alter it. Only the parts that could be done better or would work better live. That's also a thing, when you're in the studio, you're very comfortable and you can get a couple of tries to sing a song. When you're on stage, you're sometimes extremely tired. You might be sick. You might be sweating your ass off. You might not be able to hear yourself correctly, and you have one shot. And sometimes you're not that happy with that one shot, especially when you get a brain fart and you forget the lyrics. Stuff like that happens, but we'll see. Next week is our first show since, yeah, I think half a year. That half a year flew by.
Well, it's good to, I mean, it's been a bit, so download should be very fun for you guys to just kind of get back a little bit into the groove and just have a good time.
Yeah, and to have a great festival like Download as well.
That's awesome. So that is all the questions that I have for you today, Simone. Thank you for chit-chatting with me today. This is something I've always wanted to do with you since we first met, so I really appreciate you sharing your time, energy, and wisdom with me.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I had a good time chit-chatting with you as well.
To view Simone's portrait photography, visit SimoneSimons.com. And if you're interested in all things beauty, fashion, travel, and food, check out her lifestyle blog at SimoneStyle.com. The Essence of Epica is currently available for pre-order. With over 200 pages, this fully illustrated book tells the story of the band's history through intimate accounts and rare photos. So be sure to reserve your copy and go to epicabook.com. Epica will also kick off their Design Your Universe 10th anniversary tour this October, and tickets are currently on sale. You can purchase them and join in on the celebration at epica.nl/tour. Visit metalmavenpodcast.com for links to Simone's social profiles, photos, videos, and read the full transcript of this interview. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe to Metal Maven Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play.